All right. Well, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Women Blaze Trails Festival. We are on day 3, and in fact, we are also in the final 4-hour stretch of the festival. It has been an incredible weekend so far, starting Friday night, running through all day Saturday, and now into Sunday afternoon. We've been all over the world meeting incredible scientists, explorers, photographers, filmmakers, engineers, conservationists, you name it. Hearing their stories, their challenges, what they're researching, expeditions, stories growing up. Such great storytellers we've had joining us over the course of the entire weekend. So I do just want to touch briefly on Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. If you've never explored the website before, we are hosting this weekend and have organized this festival. We're all about inspiring the next generation of scientists and explorers. Each month, we run up to 60 live events connecting classrooms across North America and beyond with scientists, explorers, adventurers, and conservationists from all over the world. Sometimes it's virtual field trips. Sometimes it's guest speakers. Sometimes we're live on volcanoes. Sometimes we're at zoos and aquariums. You never know what's going on the site. Every February, we kick all the men out for the entire month, hosting amazing women in science, exploration, conservation. So do check it out. We've got about 45 live events over the course of the month. Anybody can join the events live via YouTube. Classrooms can grab camera spots. Our channel has probably 2,000 past events that you can check out as an educator, as parents, as students, whatever you like. So we are continuing with our explorations here. We're going to spend a little time with Kinga Philipps. She has tested herself for the past 20 plus years traveling the globe, scuba diving, free diving, spearfishing, surfing, jumping out of airplanes, spelunking, swimming with sharks. She's a writer, producer, and an on-camera journalist. She has traveled the world covering subjects like police corruption in Mexico, gangs in LA, humanitarian and environmental causes, world conflicts, natural disasters. But on the flip side, she's also explored things like nightlife and festivals and exotic food in some of the world's most vibrant cities. She is also a fellow of the Explorers Club. Let's bring Kinga in live with us right now. Hey, Kinga, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you, Joe. What an introduction. Proves that I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none.
You know what? I think that's important. I think it's important to explore the world around you, never say no to opportunities, and ask, why not? Why can't I do this? Let's go. I'm on.
That is exactly what I am here to talk to you about and kind of explain how I got here and then introduce you to some really cool stuff that I get to do.
Perfect. Sounds good to me. So I'm going to hide out backstage. I know you've got a few images to share. I know that I've got a few video clips queued up. So let's get right into it, Kinga. Let's get into your world.
Perfect. Thank you, Joe. Well, I am so excited to be here. I have been hanging out and listening to all the other talks. Amazing women. I'm still trying to figure out how I can get my hands on one of those submersibles from the last talk. That would definitely assist me in some of the shark diving that we do. But let me give you a little bit of background on who I am and how I got here. So I am an on-camera journalist. I'm a writer, a TV producer, and then I'm also a conservationist. So I have the distinct honor of being a bit of a mutt and a hybrid, and it has really worked out wonderfully. And that story is because when I went to college, had 7 different majors, had no idea what I wanted to do, and then decided I wanted to tell stories, and journalism would be the best way to do that. And I grew up as a child of parents who were explorers. They were scientists. My dad, a geologist, my mom, a pharmacist and a botanist. And we traveled the world, and culture, exploration, nature, wildlife was always so important to us. So when I went to college and ultimately decided to do journalism, I knew that I didn't particularly want to do news, but I wanted to do something of the likes of National Geographic and go out into the world and tell really, really great stories. And as I started to do that about 20 something years ago, I also started getting into the ocean space and surfing and diving. And one day I got to go out and do a shark dive in a cage. And before that, like so many people of my generation, I watched the movie Jaws, was absolutely terrified. And I got to go do the shark dive. And in that dive, I was blown away. And I thought, wow, everything I've ever been told by the media about sharks, by movies, television, news, books, everything, it's wrong. they're not trying to pry me out of this cage and eat me. They're actually really amazing and cool, and they're kind of the underdog. And my love affair with sharks began right there. And then the hybrid world kind of came into play because I was doing journalism and hosting shows for Travel Channel and National Geographic and getting to do these really cool stories. And as I started to produce, I started to think, wow, I have a real opportunity and a platform here to talk about things that I think are really important. And I decided that was sharks. And I remember the first time I got to go on National Geographic, I was doing a show called America's Lost Treasures. It was about the history and artifacts in this amazing country. And people would come to museums and they would show us stuff. And then we would authenticate that and we would tell the story of those items. And one of the people brought into me megalodon teeth. And we were in Savannah, Georgia. And he had actually all these fossilized teeth. And he said, I can take you out and I can show you where to find these. And he did. He took us to the river in Savannah where they dredge. And because they dredge the river and then they put all the sediment on the shore, you can walk around and find things like fossilized baby mammoth milk teeth. Somewhere in here, I even have a fossilized stingray barb and all kinds of shark's teeth. And that episode really hit home for me and for a lot of people. And then people started asking me questions about sharks. And I thought, wait a minute, this is a super cool platform to get to actually tell these stories about these animals that people don't seem to really understand. And I got to do some talk shows and talk to people. And I realized that everyone wanted to hear about sharks. But when the conversation came up, everyone went, oh gosh, they're so scary. How are you still alive? You know, you swim with them and you do things. And I went, all right, I have a mission now. And around that time, I also got to meet shark allies and an amazing woman named Stephanie Brendel, who runs Shark Allies. So I'm trying to share this with you, and Joe will let me know if I'm doing a good job because my screen sharing skills leave a lot to be desired. But this is Stephanie Brendel, who in the shark space in the conservation world, she is a powerhouse. She is my mentor. And she also was instrumental in the first shark fin ban in the United States, which was in Hawaii in 2010. And then I believe went into effect in 2011. Since then, we've had 14 states do shark fin bans and a lot of amazing stuff happening in conservation. But as I got to know Stephanie and I got to know the Shark Allies folks, and they're all amazing women, I thought, here's Stephanie with a tiger shark in Hawaii. I thought, wow, this is really cool. How can I bring this into the world that I do? So one of the first things that I started doing was I went out and I started writing shark articles. So I went out and I thought, okay, I'm going to inform people as much as I possibly can. This actually was a very successful Shark Allies campaign. We did actually get to push through a fin ban in Florida in the last 2 years, which was huge. And every time Shark Week would come up, I would find great stories to tell about Paul de Gelder and stories of redemption. And I just really wanted to make it my mission to get out there and to tell these stories that I thought were so important and that the media was really missing there. And one of the cool things that happened was in, I think it was 2013 or 2015, the Shark Allies girls and I were sitting around and a news story came up about a shark attack that had happened in Malibu. And I read the story and maybe my journalistic spidey senses tingled a little bit. And I went, you know what? Something about this story is a little off to me. And the story was that in Malibu, there was a shark fisherman named Dylan Marks, and he had been attacked and mauled by a hammerhead. And I thought, you know what? I want to check in on this. So I found Dylan on Facebook. I wrote him and I thought, worst case scenario, he can block me and say no. That's what people do on Facebook. And I said, listen, I heard your story and I actually think there's more to it. Something just really, it seems a little off about it to me. And he wrote me back right away and said, oh my goodness, thank you so much for reaching out. I would love to speak to you. I would love to speak to Shark Allies. My story has been so misrepresented. And here in a second, I'm going to ask Joe to play that first video, but I'll tell you a little bit beforehand about that and how it's kind of led me into the space of being a double agent for sharks in the media, because I am the media. I have shows on Shark Week. I do a lot of talk shows. I talk to people all the time, and the subject of sharks comes up a lot. And it has become a real point for me to show the other side of that because of the conservation work that I do. Because very often the media presents sharks as something that they are not. And the stories that they tell are often, quite frankly, wrong. So I'm going to ask Joe to play this first video, which is the interview that we did with Dylan Marks, the victim of the shark attack in Malibu. And Stephanie Brendel cut this together, I think, in a very brilliant way. So Joe, if you can play that first video, that would be awesome.
I'm Dylan Marks, and I'm here to speak with you about my encounter with the hammerhead shark.
Dylan Marks, a catch and release fisherman, was kayaking a mile off the coast of Malibu when a 10-foot hammerhead shark took a chunk out of his foot.
What happened to me was not an attack. I wouldn't even call what happened to me, it wasn't even a bite.
That kayaker's close encounter with the shark bitten on the foot off the coast of Malibu.
Paula, some terrifying moments on the beach here. Scary sight on the beach this Labor Day weekend. A shark attack victim on a stretcher.
We launched from Deer Creek pretty early in the morning, watched the sunrise. We're fishing, this El Nino has been incredible, so we've had all sorts of animals we rarely get to see. We got done fishing, we knew there were some sharks in the area. The first hammerhead came through and would check us out and kind of hang around the perimeter and come through and just scope the scene. And another one, and by the end of it, we had 3 hammerheads in the water around us. And then this big hammerhead kind of came in behind it, grabbed the bait, and then that's when sort of everything went downhill. That's sort of what led to this. We got towed around by the shark for a little while, and as we brought it up, I was pretty eager to get the hook out of its mouth, and we were using a pretty long leader, and I pulled it up by hand, and I swung my legs around in the water so I could get my arms on the shark and kind of pull it up into my lap to get the hook out. And as I was trying to reach down for it and I had the line in my hand, this scared animal, that I was put in this really precarious situation, was thrashing about and trying to get away, and while it was swimming with its mouth open, my foot got in the way.
All of a sudden, out of nowhere, a 10-foot-long hammerhead shark came out and attacked him.
I collided with this animal as it was spinning to swim away. The shark didn't come at me. The shark at no point was swimming towards us. It was afraid and trying to survive. The first time I got to see my family, they said that this is in the media and they're saying that it was a shark attack. And I instantly kind of grabbed the bed, like, let's get up and go talk to someone right now. Like, there's someone needs to dispel this myth. And so the next day I kind of got on the horn and got some things together and met with some people. And when I shared my story with them, I was really excited because I got to share what had happened. I had opened my mouth and what came out was like this chopped up version of what was important. And it fit the same mold, and it fit the same sort of cookie cutter, let's make people afraid, or this can be sensationalized. Let's not actually go with the truth. Let's go with what we want, because this will sell, and the truth won't. They took me being reckless and then pointed a gun at sharks one more time.
And the summer of the shark isn't over yet.
As an ocean-going person, I surf, and anyone I come into contact with, who I get a chance to, I talk with about how try to find ways to dispel those myths. And I ended up on the news being a part of the same problem without even having a chance to have my voice out there. I'm not fishing for sharks anymore. Not because I'm afraid, but because I love and respect them. I would do anything to undo any fear or damage that I've done. I would do anything to go back and unhook that shark and never have put it in that position. If I can be one less person to do harm, I can be one more person on the other side doing good. That's what I've learned from all this, is that I have some agency and I can make some change.
So I love that video so much because there's an element of, well, that's awkward. Basically, the media told a story that wasn't there. I think my favorite headline there was Malibu mauling, very, very aggressive. And as you saw in the video, that was actually not the case at all. So, the story there is that this is very much how sharks are portrayed in the media. And that is terribly unfortunate because they really are amazing and incredible animals. One of the things that I've noticed often too is when you see sharks on screen, let's start with dolphins. When you see dolphins on screen, you'll usually hear beautiful, fun, adorable music. Do, 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 do. When you see Flipper swimming around, you're super happy. And most of the time, when you see sharks on screen, the music suddenly becomes very ominous. And even that sinks into our psyche. And that is something that is just, it's a very unfortunate thing because at an early age, we are introducing people to this idea that sharks are ominous and they are scary. So one of the career highlights that I have had in my life is getting to host an episode of Shark Week. And that was last year was the first one. We are actually doing another one this year in a yet to be undisclosed location, but we are going to be the first people there to work with a certain population of sharks. And last year we did that with the awesome Beneath the Waves and Dr. Austin Gallagher. And we went to Turks and Caicos and studied an unstudied population of tiger sharks, which was amazing. And we got to tag one of those sharks. And one of the things that I was so excited about was that show got to be female led, which was really cool. And we got to feature shark allies and we got to feature real science. And because I was a producer on that and the production company was adamant about really making this a smart show, we got to bring in real science and a real story. And there's a beautiful clip that I'm going to ask Joe to play in a second of me diving with a great hammerhead shark. And when I saw the first cut of the show, it actually brought me to tears because Shark Week has been around for 33 years, and I think it's awesome. I really love it. I know that it's kind of dramatic sometimes, but you can play the game and you can change the game. And we decided to change the game a little bit. And in this show called Tiger Queen, they actually kept an entire 2-minute long segment, and I cut it down to a minute here, of beautiful music playing when I'm diving with a great hammerhead, free diving. And that was such a win for me because even to have this interaction of a girl and a shark and this beautiful poetic classical music playing, and they put that on air, I thought, gosh, this is one of the coolest things I've ever had the honor to do. So Joe, if I could ask you to play that second clip, that'd be great. So that might seem like no biggie. And I know most of the women speaking here have been diving with sharks and had so many cool experiences that that's just kind of par for the course. But why that stood out so much to me and why that brought me to tears is you don't see a lot of that on television with that kind of music and that kind of interaction. And it was so special. At one point, you actually see me dig my hands into the sand because the current was so strong and she was coming towards me and I was coming towards her. And I thought, okay, I want to give her space so we don't collide. But that was such a special win getting to do that on Shark Week. And I hope that we get to do the same again this year. So Joe, I know that you're about 5 minutes behind and I've been talking for a little bit here and showing videos and photos. So if you want to do questions, I'm game for that.
I think that sounds great. Kinga, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Myself as a diver, I love diving with sharks. When I was teaching in the classroom, students would say the same thing. You're crazy, Mr. G. Why why do you want to get in the water with sharks? You're going to get attacked one day. Sharks are dangerous. And you brought up Jaws, and I know the author of the book regrets everything that's happened and the reputation that sharks have received. And I know sometimes, especially people in the science world, can kind of look at Shark Week sometimes and go, no, this is too much, too dramatic, too over the top. So thank you so much for putting shows out there that kind of show that side of sharks that I've experienced in the water with them, that most people experience in the water with them.
Well, thank you for that. And it was an honor to get to do that and to bring that to the screen. And quickly, funny story, the first time I met with the executives at Shark Week, the first thing I said to them, because I couldn't help it and just came out of my mouth, I said, you know, a lot of scientists don't like you, right? And they went, yeah, we know. So, you know, it's fun to get to change the game sometimes and to come in and, you know, you can either walk away and not partake, or you can be a game changer. And we had the really cool opportunity to do that. Yeah.
So we have a question here on YouTube, and I know this is going to be a hard question to answer, but we saw that clip that you shared with us. That's, you know, sensationalization of that hammerhead encounter, and it wasn't at all what happened. How much of what we're seeing in the media do you think is these sensationalized stories, and what can we do to try and, I don't know, get behind the scenes and find the real story? It's so hard sometimes.
That's a great question, and a really tough question to answer as well, because it's hard to say, oh, so much, you know, 70% of what you see about sharks in the media is wrong. But I think that the message there is to question things and to question the stories. And you know what? Look, shark encounters happen. There are attacks. Sometimes they have tragic results. People also get smashed by refrigerators and all sorts of other things. And I even understand the primal fear of sharks. They are large fish in an environment that is not our environment, and they have really sharp teeth. Like, how could you not have some kind of even a healthy respect that could lead to fear for that? But I think the more people educate themselves, and if they have the opportunity to spend time with them, that starts to override the messaging that you're constantly brought in the media. And the reality is, you know, those stories, if it bleeds, it leads. That's what they say. And we saw clearly in that clip that it was wrong. Not all of them are 100% wrong, but there usually is a story. And we find that with a lot of shark encounters, and some that even end poorly, there's some kind of scientific messaging behind that. There's some kind of a reason for that encounter. And sometimes, quite honestly, it's even our fault. So there's how you can go about and really check the integrity of that, you know, whether you want to stalk people on Facebook and ask them questions, I don't know. But I think just to remember that it's not always 100% accurate, and there usually is another side to the story. That right there is important.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, even just the way things are described, like shark infested waters, but sharks live in the water. How can it be shark infested if that's their natural environment? I mean, sure, maybe a shark shows up in a restaurant, you call it a shark infested restaurant, but I don't think you can call the ocean shark infested, and that kind of language, right? That kind of language needs to change.
I make that joke all the time. I always say, look, that's like you coming into my living room and saying it's Kinga infested. Yeah, I live here. It's Kinga infested. But that was another great thing about what Discovery Channel did and what Ping Pong, the production company, did, is we changed a lot of the language. Like, you don't hear the word aggressive. You don't hear the term shark infested in Tiger Queen, the show we did, because we were really particular about not having that kind of language in there. And I'm super grateful to them that they allowed me to do that.
Yeah. So you have been traveling around the world for, 20 or so years now. You've seen and experienced a lot of things. You've probably seen change over time as well. So I'm wondering, as a woman traveling the world, reporting on stories, jumping into the water, what have you seen change? Maybe have the challenges changed? Has it gotten a bit easier? As a woman in your field, how are things?
That's a great question as well. And I have seen change, because I think there are a lot of incredible women in science and travel and exploration and all of that. For a long time, they weren't quite as highlighted. Like, I even remember when I started scuba diving, I would often show up and want to go to a dive shop, and the Blue Hole in Belize was a perfect example. And they had me sit and wait and really questioned my skill set before they allowed me to go. And I knew it was because I was a girl and I was sitting there saying, oh, I want to go do this really cool scuba dive to 145 feet. And I've seen attitudes change over the years, and I've seen women be a lot more highlighted, a lot more respected in the field. You don't get like the triple head turn now when you're hiking by yourself in Alaska, which you used to all the time. People would wonder why you were there by yourself. And I think you see a lot more of that. And some of it is social media. That's the good side of social media. And some of it is the traditional media that I think has allowed women a greater space of representation, which is really excellent and extraordinary.
All right, that's so great to hear. We had Sylvia Earle kick things off on Friday night, and she shared a clip from when she was, diving with Tektite, 50 years ago now. And the clip, the males were called aquanauts, and they were calling the women divers aquanauties or aqua babes. And, things have changed so much. I'm sure there's still work to be done. I know there's still work to be done. But it is good to hear, those triple takes have stopped, and the double checking of can you go that deep and things like that. It's good to hear that things like that are changing.
It is great to hear. Definitely.
All right. Well, Kinga, I want to share your contacts here. There we go. So Twitter and Instagram, if people want to follow along on your adventures. Obviously, the show coming up on Shark Week is really exciting. So I hope people tune in and check that out. And it's just been such a pleasure to have you with us today, sharing some of the media work that you're doing. And, near and dear to me is sharks. So sharing that message about sharks and dispelling some of those myths is so important.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on. And now I'm going to sit back and enjoy some of the other speakers.
Awesome. Well, Kinga, again, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and hopefully we'll connect again soon.
Thank you, Joe. Bye.
See ya.